Now, the greatest radio shows of all time.
Suspense.
The Shadow Node.
Washington calling David Harding, Counter Spy.
Classic radio theater.
The Great Gildersleeve. Fibber McGee and Molly.
Dragnet. Gunsmoke.
The Lone Ranger.
Now, step back into a time machine with your host, Wyatt Cox.
Good evening, friends of the Inner Sanctum.
Dick Kollmar, starring in an episode of Boston-Blackie. This episode of Boston-Blackie goes all the way back to April 30th, 1946, and it is the Francis Fielding murder case.
Operator.
Operator, get me the police.
One moment, please.
22nd Precinct, Sergeant Mulvaney speaking.
Sergeant Mulvaney, this is Dr. Lester Allen.
Yes, Doc, what can I do for you?
Well, I'm in a house at 1110 Dale Avenue. There's been a murder here.
A murder? Well, don't touch anything, don't move anything. We'll be right over.
All right, Sergeant.
Who's the victim, Doctor?
The victim was a patient of mine, Miss Frances Fielding. I'm a psychiatrist, Sergeant.
You know how she was killed or who killed her?
She was shot. It looks like murder because when I found her just now, the gun was much too far from her body for this to be suicide.
Well, just sit tight, Doc. We'll be right over.
Sergeant, I wonder...
Yeah, Doc?
Oh, nothing. I suppose it's much too irregular.
I think I know what you're getting at, Doc. You know a couple of newspaper men will come along with us. You don't want the publicity.
No. Frankly, I don't.
Well, I tell you what, Dr. Allen. I know who you are, all right. Go back to your office and stay there. We'll be up to talk to you later. Might have to ask you a few questions.
Of course, Sergeant. I'm sure I can answer them to your complete satisfaction.
And now meet Dick Kollmar as Boston-Blackie. Enemy to those who make him an enemy. Friend to those who have no friend.
Here's your apartment, Mary.
Mm-hmm.
Hold the meter, driver. Young lady's getting out here, but I'm going on.
Okay.
Blackie, look across the street.
Hey, looks like a sighting of some kind, Mary. Wonder what it is.
It is not for us.
I know, not... Hey, that police car over there, the one in front. That's Inspector Faraday's.
Oh, now I know what kind of excitement it is.
And that is for us. Come on. Here, driver, keep the change.
Thanks.
Come on, Mary.
Oh, golly, do we have to, Blackie?
Does water have to run downhill?
That was a foolish answer.
That's what a foolish question deserves, they tell me.
Okay, darling. There's Inspector Faraday coming out to his car.
Good. Now we won't have to waste time finding him. Hello, Faraday.
Who's that?
Who would you expect to turn up about this time?
Blackie, I might have known it was you.
Hello, Inspector Faraday. What are you doing in my neighborhood?
Hello, Miss Wesley. What's murder doing in your neighborhood?
Murder, Faraday?
Yeah, in that house there. A girl by the name of Frances Fielding.
Now, don't look at me, Faraday. Mary and I were at the Mercedes restaurant tonight, and I have a dozen witnesses to prove it.
The girl was killed about 8 o'clock. I suppose you were at the Mercedes then?
Yes, we were.
See anybody around here before you went to eat?
I didn't.
I didn't either. Oh, wait. I met Dr. Allen here. In fact, he went right into this house. He was going in to see a patient, he said. Remember, Mary?
Hey, that's right.
Dr. Allen, huh?
Dr. Lester Allen, a psychiatrist.
I think I'll go over and have a talk with him.
Faraday, you don't think that...
I do think, Blackie. That's something you don't give me credit for. That's something that's going to get you in trouble someday.
Someday.
I'll see you later, Blackie. Much later, I hope.
But, Faraday, you aren't going to pin this on Dr. Allen, are you?
Not unless he did it.
Well, he didn't. I've known him for years.
Well, then, maybe that's why he did it. Knowing you has made him tired of going straight. I like that.
Do you, Inspector? Well, Dr. Allen's a nice guy. And if you're going to see him, I'm going with you. How do you like that?
Dr. Allen, I'd like to ask you a few questions.
Of course, Inspector Faraday.
Give him routine answers, Doctor. He won't know the difference.
Quiet, Blackie. Dr. Allen, when was the last time you saw Frances Fielding alive?
This afternoon, here in my office.
Is that the last time you saw her?
Alive? Yes. I talked to her on the phone later. She called me. Told me she was terribly upset.
About what?
Well, she came to see me this afternoon for treatment. She was suffering from a neurosis. She was afraid she was going to kill herself.
Never mind about that neurosis stuff. Now, after Miss Fielding called this evening, what did you do?
I did as she asked. I went to see her.
So you admit you were there, do you?
Well, of course I do. In fact, Blackie saw me going in to see her.
That's why you're being questioned, Doctor. I had to open my big mouth.
Well, shut it, Blackie. Dr. Allen, you mean to tell me you went to the Fielding home, found Miss Fielding dead, and left without calling the police?
Look here, Inspector, I did call the police.
You called the police? Now, please, Doctor, don't give me that.
But I did. I talked to a Sergeant Mulvaney.
Mulvaney? There's no such sergeant at headquarters, and no call ever came into headquarters. I checked that.
I don't understand. This is absolutely fantastic.
Is it? If you talked to the police, why weren't you at the scene of the murder when the police arrived?
Why? Because the Sergeant Mulvaney said he knew me, and it would be all right if I waited for the police right here in my office.
You don't tell very good lies, Dr. Allen. And you don't tell them well, either. Come on, why did you kill her?
I didn't kill her. I never saw her before this afternoon.
Can you prove that, Doctor?
Well, I don't know. I might. My secretary, Miss Glenn, she might.
Get her in here, Blackie.
Sure.
You never saw Frances Fielding before this afternoon, huh?
No. My appointment book will prove it.
All right, Doctor. It isn't going to matter much, but I hope you're telling the truth for a change.
There she is.
Thanks, Blackie. Miss Glenn, when did Frances Fielding first have an appointment with Dr. Allen?
About 8 months ago, Inspector.
8 months? Miss Glenn.
8 months, huh?
That's not true, Inspector. Miss Glenn, what's the matter with you? You know I never saw that girl until she walked into my office this afternoon.
Oh, I'm awfully sorry, Dr. Allen. Did I say something wrong?
You said something right, Miss Glenn.
Look here, Inspector. This whole thing is absolutely... Why, my appointment book shows she was here for the first time today.
It shows you saw her for the first time 8 months ago. Or Miss Glenn wouldn't say so.
I'm afraid it does, Doctor. Here's my book. See for yourself.
I'll take that book. You answer your phone, Doctor.
Thank you. Hello.
Dr. Lester Allen?
Yes.
Can you talk?
No, I can't talk to anyone now. Call me back in a few minutes.
Okay, I'll call back in a very few minutes.
Now listen, Inspector.
You listen, Doctor. You're not in a position to do much talking. You look like a murder suspect to me.
Faraday, you're all wrong.
Quiet, Blackie. I'm all right. The doctor's lying about the phone call to the police and about when he first met the dead girl. And I think that makes it look like maybe he killed her.
Motive, Faraday, motive. What was his motive?
I'll find one, don't worry. Don't leave town, Dr. Allen. I may want you to come down and see me sometime. Come on, Blackie. Let's go.
Wait, Blackie, I want to talk to you.
All right. See you later, Faraday.
I'm warning you, Blackie. You stay out of this.
Tell that to someone who hasn't solved most of your cases for you.
Miss Glenn, show Inspector Faraday the way out, will you?
Of course. Right this way, Inspector.
Doctor, I'm awfully sorry. In a way, I got you into this.
I'm not blaming you, Blackie. I understand all you did was say you saw me at Miss Fielding's house. What I don't... Oh. Excuse me. Hello?
Hello, Dr. Allen. Can you talk now?
Yes.
This is Roger Fielding, Frances Fielding's brother.
Oh. Yes. Well, just a minute.
What's the matter, Doctor?
Blackie, this is Frances Fielding's brother. Should I talk to him?
Yes, but let me listen, too. Is there an extension I can use?
Yes, right there on that table.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead and talk to him now.
Yes, Mr. Fielding. What is it?
You know what it is, Doc. It's about what you did to my sister.
What I did to her?
That's right. She's dead. Don't try to tell me you didn't kill her.
What makes you think I did?
Her little diary told me so.
What?
Just let me read you what it says here on one of the pages. Kept for a year, and you're on every page. This is 7 months ago. It says, I loved Lester so, and
What?
he says he loves me. But I know one of these days he'll leave me to go back to his wife. I envy Mrs. Allen so, but I won't let him go. I just won't let him go.
Look here, I didn't even know your sister 7
And
months
listen
ago.
to this, Doc. This is even better. Here's what it says on a page of her diary about a month ago. She wrote, Lester's throwing me over. I just know he is. And if he does, I'll go to Mrs. Allen with the truth. I'll tell her everything. Listen, Doc.
What?
I don't know why you killed my sister, but I got a rough idea. She sort of asked for it, didn't she?
Now, look.
You look, Doc. Maybe Sis got what was coming to her, but the cops got this diary coming to them. Unless you want it. And bad.
This is blackmail.
Is that what it is? I think I'm doing you a favor. Meet me at Dobbs Hill at 10 tomorrow night. And I like to do favors.
Hello. Hello.
It's no use, Doctor. He hung up.
Blackie, what do you think?
Well, Faraday broke down your story about calling the police, not meeting the dead girl until this afternoon, and said all he needed to arrest you was a motive. What I just heard on the phone would pass as a motive, all right.
Blackie, you know I had nothing to do with this.
No? Well, Dr. Allen, either this is first-class frame-up, or you're a third-degree liar.
Fielding home is spooky enough upstairs. Do we have to stay down here in the basement much longer?
Only until we find telephone wires that look as if they've been tampered with.
Okay.
What will that prove, Blackie?
Well, Doctor, when you made your call to the police, you got through to the operator all right, didn't you?
Yes.
A bit before you got the police, there was a long pause, huh?
Yes, quite long. Then a Sergeant Mulvaney answered.
But there's no such person on the force. You didn't talk to the police, but maybe to someone here in the basement.
Blackie, do you want wires that look as if they've been cut?
Or wires with tape on them, Mary, to cover a place where they've been scraped.
Well, here are 2 of them.
2 is what we want. Come on, Doctor.
Aren't you glad you brought me?
These are the wires we want, all right?
Can you tell if they've been tapped?
Easily. Just look at them. The wires have been separated, the insulation scraped off, then the bare wires taped together again.
Does this really prove the doctor's story about talking to a Sergeant Mulvaney?
Yes, Mary. Here's why. Whoever tricked the doctor into thinking he was talking to the police was down here when the doctor dialed the operator.
I did get the operator then. That was legitimate.
Oh, yes. But after you got the operator, there was a long pause, you said.
Yes, there was.
Blackie, Dr. Allen was cut off during that pause.
That's right, Mary. It was the man down here who took over his call to the police, probably asked them some foolish questions, then hung up on them.
Then the man switched the doctor back in and talked to him.
Exactly. And you, Dr. Allen, thought you were talking to the police. Well, all the time you were talking to the man down here.
Well, who was that man, though?
Francis Feeling's killer, probably.
I think I feel better already. You believe me now, don't you?
I think so. But we'll never convince Faraday you're innocent if he sees the dead girl's diary.
I've got to keep that meeting with her brother tonight.
Yes, but in the meantime, we'd better work on another angle.
What, Blackie?
The reason for the girl's death.
What would be a good reason?
Well, money, if it's enough. But enough or not, if we could find she carried insurance payable to someone who had a chance to kill her, that would be enough for me.
April 30th, 1946, Boston-Blackie on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, more of Dick Kollmar and Boston-Blackie, April 30th, 1946.
Now back to Boston-Blackie. Psychiatrist Lester Allen receives a phone call from his new patient, Frances Fielding, to come to her home at once. He goes there, finds her murdered, and calls police. He is told to go back to his office. Inspector Faraday finds no record of Allen's call and believes him guilty. As we return to our story, Boston-Blackie, who is with Mary and Dr. Allen, calls Faraday in search of a motive for the girl's murder.
Maybe this will work. At least it's worth a try.
Faraday speaking.
Hello, Faraday. This is Blackie.
Now what do you want?
The usual, Faraday, to give you a little help.
I'd rather have the measles.
Next week, Faraday. This week, I want to give you an angle on the Fielding murder. I think it's insurance.
Blackie, I don't know how I'd get along without you.
I do. Not very well.
You know, it's amazing that you'd think of insurance at a time like this.
What's amazing about it, Faraday? If you were any kind of a cop, you'd have thought about it long ago.
I thought of it last night. Is that long enough ago for you?
Well, Faraday, you're improving. What did you find out?
None of your business.
What are you doing, Faraday? Faking? I'll bet you don't know a thing about the Fielding girl's insurance. Bet you never even thought of it.
Oh, I didn't think of it, huh? Well, a copy of the policy is right here on my desk.
I don't believe it.
You don't, huh? All right, listen to this.
I'm listening.
She had an accident policy with $5,000 for accidental death.
Mm-hmm.
She took it out 2 years ago and collected on it 5 months ago for a broken arm. And now all the money from the policy goes to her grandmother in Mexico City.
Oh, her grandmother, huh?
Yes. And if you think her grandmother killed her, think again. Because she's a 97-year-old invalid and hasn't been out of Mexico City in 30 years. Well, wise guy, don't bother me with your bright ideas.
Faraday. Faraday!
He hang up on you, Blackie?
He sure did, Mary.
Was she killed for her insurance?
No.
Oh, gee, so now what?
Now, Mary, you're going home to see a bed about some sleep, and Dr. Allen and I are going to Dobbs Hill to see a man about a diary. There's his car, parked on the other side of the road. Now, you stay down there in the back of your car.
You sure it's safe for you to go over and talk to him?
You sure this fellow's never seen you?
No, he's never seen me. At least I don't think so.
Well, I'd better go on over and talk to him before he gets suspicious. I'll try and sound as much like you as I can. Sit tight. Here I go.
All right. Good luck.
Roger Fielding?
Yeah. Dr. Allen?
Yes.
How are you, Doc?
I don't know. Let me see that diary.
Sure. Here you are. This is the original.
Thanks.
Don't bother trying to run off with it. I've got photostatic copies. Get me?
I got you.
I want you to notice something, Doc. She wrote in her diary every day. Every single day.
Yes, so I see.
And every day, every single day, she wrote about Doc Allen. Nice diary, huh?
Pretty incriminating.
Pretty valuable to me. It's her handwriting, and she kept it about a year.
Hold it. I want to compare the writing with the note she sent me asking for an appointment here.
All right.
Yeah. She wrote the diary, all right?
Sure she did. Now, I'm not asking much, Doc, only a little. Now.
And later?
A little more.
And after that?
Oh, whenever I get a little pushed for cash, then either you come across with the money like a nice guy, or I take this diary to the cops.
What for?
What for? It gives you a pretty good reason for killing her.
Yes, it does, Fielding. There's only one thing wrong with it.
What's that?
It's a phony.
A phony, huh? Well, let me tell you something.
What?
As a doc, you're a phony, too. The next time, tell Doc Allen he better show in person. Mr. Boston-blackie.
I'm still sorry I couldn't fool that guy, Doctor.
Well, it was a nice try, Blackie. Let's go into my office. Maybe we can think of something else.
We've got to, or Inspector Faraday will come running after you
I'm not
with
running, Blackie. I'm waiting.
Hello, Faraday.
Good evening, Inspector.
I'm sure glad to see you, Doctor. I was afraid you'd skip town.
No, all I did was drive out.
For a little air, Faraday. After that conversation with you last night, he needed it.
Try it, Blackie. Dr. Allen, I'm taking you to headquarters.
What for?
Questioning.
Faraday, you can't do that. The doctor knows less about that girl's death than you do, if that's possible.
Well, I suppose you know all about it, huh?
I know you need a motive before you can really pin this on the doctor.
Give me time. I'll find one.
I'll save you time. I've already found it. A diary written by Francis Fielding and containing plenty of motive for murder.
Where?
Blackie.
Don't get excited, either of you. The diary's a phony.
A phony? How do you know?
Blackie, you know that diary's a counterfeit? How?
How? Very simple, Doctor. Faraday, do you remember the accident policy the Fielding girl had?
Sure. She collected on it, too, for a broken right arm. It was exactly 5 months ago.
Well, guess what was in Miss Fielding's diary 5 months ago?
Blank pages. Her arm was broken.
The pages weren't blank, Faraday. Her mind was. About that broken right arm. The day-to-day account continued 6 months ago, just as if her arm was perfectly all right.
Well, that does prove the diary was a counterfeit. It was probably written just recently, perhaps in the last few weeks.
That's exactly it, Doctor. She was so anxious to phony up a long-time love affair in a diary, she forgot she couldn't write 6 months ago.
All right, Blackie. So that diary was phony. So the diary was a frame. I suppose you think everything else about this case is a frame against the doctor, too.
Yes.
Who framed him?
I think the girl did it.
And killed herself to do it? That's a good one.
That's too good, Faraday. I can't figure out that part at all. But she was part of a frame against the doctor. That much I do know.
Look, will you quit trying to do my thinking for me?
Somebody has to. You don't.
I don't, huh? Well, Dr. Allen here says he met the Fielding girl for the first time yesterday, but his own appointment book shows he's been seeing her for 8 months. Explain that.
I can't understand it.
I can. You were lying. Just as you were lying when you said you called the police.
He thought he did call them, Faraday.
What do you mean, thought he did?
Whoever killed Miss Fielding tapped the phone in her house and pretended to be the police.
Yeah? How do you know?
I did a very strange thing for me, Faraday. I investigated. And look, have you ever heard of Roger Fielding?
Roger Fielding. Roger Fielding sounds familiar.
How familiar?
I think he was arrested once. He served time, too.
What for?
I don't know, but I can find out.
Well, you find out why Roger Fielding was arrested. And if it's for what I hope it is, maybe I'll find out why you can arrest him again.
you looking up in the phone book, Blackie?
Catherine Glenn, Mary, the doctor's secretary.
Why?
Well, Faraday found out that Roger Fielding used to work for the telephone company. Went to jail for stealing payphone collections.
April 30th, 1946, Boston-Blackie on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. The conclusion follows these important messages from your favorite radio station. Just when you thought it couldn't get any better, Mike Lindell and MyPillow launching the MyPillow 2.0. Now, when Mike invented MyPillow, it had everything you could want in a pillow. Now, nearly 20 years later, he's discovered a new technology that makes MyPillow even better. Of course, the patented adjustable fill of the original MyPillow, but now with brand new fabric with a temperature-regulating thread, it's the softest, smoothest, and coolest pillow you'll ever own. Say goodbye to tossing and turning and flipping your pillow over in the middle of the night. And more great news on the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer with my promo code Wyatt. MyPillow 2.0 is 100% made in the USA, 10-year warranty, 60-day money-back guarantee. Go to MyPillow.com, click on the radio podcast square to receive the MyPillow 2.0 buy one, get one free offer. Use my promo code Wyatt or call 1-800-928-4715. Thank you for tuning in to Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We're listening to Dick Kollmar and Boston-Blackie. Dick Kollmar's wife, you probably know better than Dick Kollmar. Dorothy Kilgallen, you remember the lady on What's My Line? Yeah, now the conclusion. April 30th, 1946.
I knew he was responsible for this frame-up as soon as he flashed the phony diary, but I wanted to make sure.
Oh, I see. And when you found out he'd worked for the phone company at one time, you figured he knew how to tap the phone in his sister's house.
Right. Let me see here. Yeah, and the only thing I have to prove now is that Catherine Glenn was working with Fielding. Glenn. And, of course, she phoned up Dr. Allen's appointment book. Here's the number.
Darling, where's Dr. Allen now?
At headquarters, poor guy. Faraday wouldn't wait.
Oh. What are you going to say to Miss Glenn?
I'm going to pretend I'm Roger Fielding and see what she says to me.
Oh, again. Happy pretending.
Thanks.
Hello?
Okay. This is Roger.
Roger who?
You don't know?
I think I do, but
Look,
then...
I have to see you.
What about?
Just to check on a few things.
Such as...
You ought to know.
I ought to know who you are, but I don't.
You don't?
No. Unless you couldn't be Boston-Blackie by any chance.
What happened?
Nothing. She knew who I was. I'm not very good at fooling people tonight, apparently.
Darling, you never were very good at fooling me.
I was never trying to pin a murder on you.
I have never given you the chance, though.
Well, Fielding and Miss Glenn have. And I'm going to take it, too. There's just one more thing I can do.
Hello.
Roger.
Yes?
This is Kay Glenn.
What's the idea of calling me?
Look, I'm scared.
About what?
I don't want to tell you over the phone. I better wait till I see you.
What's the matter?
I'll tell you later.
All right.
Can you come right away?
Yes.
Well, hurry before it's too late. Oh, come in, Roger.
What's up, Kay? What's the trouble?
Wait till I lock the door.
Kind of jumpy, kid. What's the matter?
Nothing. I just want to talk to you.
What about?
About how things are going.
You know the answer to that yourself. Great.
But I'm upset.
Why?
Because of Frances.
Why be upset about her?
Because... Roger, why didn't you tell me you were going to kill her? That's what I'm really upset about.
That? Well, I didn't see any point in telling you about that. Or Frances either, of course. In fact, it was sort of a spur-of-the-moment thing. I double-crossed Frances, who never even dreamed she'd be murdered when she first came along with that plan. I thought it would make a better frame against the doctor.
A better one? What was wrong with your first idea?
Nothing. I suppose we could have shaken him down for plenty with Frances's diary and the appointment book you fixed up.
Then why did you have to kill Frances?
2 reasons. It put the doc in a worse spot, and we only have to split 2 ways instead of 3, so I killed it.
Well, I want nothing to do with murder. I'm going to the police.
Oh, no, you're not. I killed Francis to make the frame against the doc a good one, and I could kill you and make it perfect. You go to the police, will you? No, you won't. You won't.
Inspector!
I'm calling a cop. I'll fix you so you don't call...
You called the wrong man, Kay. I got here first.
Oh, thanks, Blackie. He was going to choke me.
You can come out now, Faraday. The danger's over.
Very funny.
I had to slip up behind Fielding and slug him, or he'd have choked Miss Glenn here.
Yeah, I know. I heard plenty before you clipped him.
I guess you did at that, Faraday. You know, I just couldn't get along without you. What would I do for laughs?
You'd look in the mirror. Well, I gotta revive this guy now and get him down to headquarters. Come on, you.
I suppose I'm going to headquarters, too.
Yes, Miss Glenn. But I don't think you'll get what Fielding is going to get. You did a good job working with me after Francis was killed. It was your cooperation that helped us break this case.
Oh, I did my best, Blackie. I had to. When I first got into this, there was no talk about killing Francis Fielding. I'm glad Dr. Allen's name is clear. Really, I am.
I think the police will believe you, Miss Glenn. Oh, well, for his frame-up against Lester Allen, M.D., Fielding's name from now on is M.U.D.
April 30th, 1946, Boston Blackie on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, an episode of yours truly, Johnny Dollar. This is part 1 of the 5-part Callicles Matter, and this episode originally broadcast April 30th, 1956.
From Hollywood, it's time now for
Johnny Dollar.
This is Robert Ecker, Mr. Parsons' secretary. You telephone this office for an appointment with Mr. Parsons.
That's right. I'm an investigator, Mr. Ecker. I was sent here by Eastern Casualty and Trust. We understand David Parsons is missing. I want to talk to Mr. Parsons Sr. about it.
Oh. Well, Mr. Parsons Sr. isn't in the office today. He's home ill.
This is pretty important, Mr. Ecker. Maybe I better call him at home.
Why don't you come to the office? I'll try to arrange to take you out there.
I don't want to be a lot of trouble.
There'd be more trouble if I didn't.
Tonight, and every weekday night, Bob Bailey in the transcribed adventures of the man with the action-packed expense account, America's fabulous freelance insurance investigator.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar. Expense account submitted by Special Investigator Johnny Dollar to the Eastern Casualty and Trust Company, number 25 Yardley Boulevard, Boston, Massachusetts. The following is an accounting of expenditures during my investigation of the Callicles Matter. Expense account item 1, $200, 5 cents, airfare and incidentals, Hartford to Los Angeles. I arrived at midnight, went straight to the Beverly Hilton, had a good night's sleep, and woke up to an early spring heat wave. By 9 o'clock, I had placed my call to Parsons, Stocks and Bonds. At 10 o'clock, I met Robert Ecker in person. He was a man about my age with a thin face and good clothes. Judging from his office, the job as secretary was a pretty responsible one.
I don't quite understand this, Mr. Dollar. What made you think that Mr. Parsons Jr. is missing?
Is he around?
Do you mean, is he in town?
Yeah, is he in town? Is he around? Can I see him?
Well, none of us exactly knows where he is, but he's not what you'd call missing.
Well, now, that depends on how you look at it, Mr. Ecker. We understand David Parsons hasn't been seen for 10 days. Is my information wrong?
Well, no, what you say is true. You mean you're here to look into the matter?
That's about it.
May I say something?
Sure.
When you're speaking of David Parsons in front of his father, Mr. Parsons Sr., I suggest that you don't use that word missing.
I'll try to remember that.
The connotation might upset him. I'm certain he doesn't regard Mr. Parsons' absence in the missing sense.
Maybe you can tell me how he does regard it.
I'm afraid I can't. Mr. Parsons Sr. doesn't confide in me.
How about David Parsons' wife?
Sorry.
How about your own opinion?
I'd rather keep my opinions to myself, Mr. Dollar. There's nothing personal, but Mr. Parsons Sr. is very adamant about certain matters.
In other words, Mr. Parsons Sr. does all of the thinking for publication.
So to speak, yes. What concern does the Eastern...
Casualty and Trust Company have in this matter?
Yes. What is the bonding company's concern?
$100,000. There was an automatic write-up on David Parsons, Jr. when he entered the firm.
I still don't understand.
David Parsons had access to great amounts of money and transferable bonds here. That's where we're responsible, Mr. Ecker.
Is that an inference?
If it sounds like I'm worried that David Parsons might have walked off with some money or some bonds, it's an inference.
That's rather ridiculous, isn't it?
I don't know whether it is or not, Mr. Ecker.
Well, I regard it that way. Mr. Parsons is worth a considerable amount of money. $1 million would be a conservative estimate of his fortune. His father, of course, is, well, Mr. Parsons Sr.
Yes, we're well aware of Mr. Parsons' holding. But sometimes things aren't what they seem. You know what I mean?
No, I'm afraid I don't know exactly what you mean, Mr. Dollar.
Well, now, take these, for instance.
Mr. Dollar.
Take these.
Just what?
Here, these copies of Eastern Casualty's policies on your desk, Mr. Ecker. Now, let's see, you call me about 9. It's a little after 10 now. That gave you an hour to dig them out, study them over, and answer for yourself the exact questions you've been making me answer. Isn't that about it, Mr. Ecker?
Yes. Yes, I'd say that's just about it, Mr. Dollar.
Robert Ecker drove me out to the Bel Air home of David Parsons Sr. On the way, he spoke of the weather, the situation in Algiers, the trouble he had making reservations for weekends in Palm Springs, and the low fuel consumption of his new Studebaker Golden Hawk. He avoided very carefully any further mention of David Parsons, Jr., the missing son. I put a couple of direct questions to him, which he answered indirectly by referring me to Mr. Parsons, Sr., so I let it go at that.
Jenny? Jenny? Somebody must be around.
You said your phone.
I did. Jenny? Oh, hello.
Hello, Robert. Nobody around?
No one so far.
They must be upstairs. He's been at it today. Called me over here an hour ago. Oh, I'm Mrs. Parsons.
I'm Johnny Dollar. How do you do?
I beg your pardon?
You shouldn't, Robert. It was purposeful.
Mrs. Parsons.
I'm the one you're not supposed to meet, Mr. Dollar. I'm David's wife. I just received orders from upstairs that this matter will be handled upstairs.
Is that so?
Oh, yes, that's quite so. My father-in-law feels that he has extraordinary competence in this matter. As in all matters, huh, Robert?
We'd better get along, Mr. Dollar.
How do you feel?
Oh, I feel fine.
I mean about your father-in-law handling it.
That makes very little difference, Mr. Dollar. It's my husband who's missing, but his son. You're a policeman or a detective, aren't you?
In a way, yes.
You look like a very charming man, Mr. Dollar.
Ecker! Ecker, that you down there?
Just a moment, Mr. Parsons.
Hurry up!
You may have to practice some charm on him.
Thank you for the tip, Mrs. Parsons.
Not at all. It was nice to have met you. Good morning, Robert.
Good morning, Mrs. Parsons. We'd better get up there.
Ecker!
Robert Ecker led me upstairs into a massive bedroom that could only have been decorated for a massive old man, which is exactly what David Parsons Sr. turned out to be. 6.5 feet tall, I guessed at it, since he was stretched out in bed. He had a pair of coal black eyes and white hair liberally sprinkled with gray. He spilled a briefcase full of papers and documents off the bed, punched his pillow around, and glared hard at me.
What's his name?
This is Mr. Dollar, Mr. Parsons.
You see if he had any credentials?
No, sir.
Well, find out!
Mr. Dollar.
Sure. Here, look these over.
I'll look them over. Hand them to me.
Yes, Mr. Parsons.
They could be forgeries. He could be a newspaper reporter, something like that. Go downstairs and use the hall phone. Call this company and see if they have anyone named Johnny Dollar working for them. And hurry it up.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Those credentials are genuine. You know it and I know it, Mr. Parsons. I'm not waiting around here while you call Boston and talk to someone there you won't believe either. Now, I'm at the Beverly Hilton. You call me when you've made up your mind to talk about this matter.
Fine. Now get out.
I got in town last night and contacted your office first thing. I wanted to talk to you about it first for several reasons. One, you're David Parsons' father. It's your company, not his, that can be jeopardized in a situation like this. Two, you seem the logical man to see to clear up the matter easily. Now that I've seen you, I'm not so sure of that. I'll have to go to somebody else.
Wait a minute. What do you mean, go to somebody else?
I mean, I'm not going to sit in a hotel room cooling my heels waiting for you to call me. I have to find out about this, and there are other people to talk to. Your son's wife, the whole household.
They wouldn't let you in.
The police, if I have to.
I'd break you. I'd break you in half.
Then I'd get pretty mad, and both halves of me would figure this thing out if it took 1,000,000 years and $1 million.
Ecker.
Yes, sir?
Get out of here.
Yes, sir.
You've got 5 minutes.
I've got 5 minutes and 10 minutes and 1,000,000 minutes if I need them. We have a report your son's been missing for 10 days now. One of our brokers reported it. He happened to be one of your son's clients.
Missing.
All right, where is he?
How would I know?
I take that to mean you don't know. Do you have any ideas?
Of course not.
Have you had an audit of your books since he disappeared?
What?
Have you had an audit? Is there anything missing? Bonds, cash in the company?
Ecker! Ecker! Throw this bum out of here and make sure he bounces a couple of times.
Mr. Parsons.
Throw him out!
I've got you by a good 25 pounds, Ecker.
Maybe you'd better leave, Mr. Dollar.
I think I'll stay.
Oh, if I could get out of this bed, I'd do it myself. Ecker!
Run along, Mr. Ecker. He'll calm down. I can wait him out.
You leave without throwing him out and you're fired. Throw him out!
I'll wait for you downstairs, Mr. Dollar.
All right. Sit down. What day's today?
Friday.
It was a week ago Tuesday. David left the house, according to his wife, and that's the last anyone saw him. No word, nothing since then.
No police?
Of course not, no police.
I can hear you. Why?
You know why as well as I do. An investment broker missing. What the papers wouldn't do with that?
What's been going on?
Nothing. We've been waiting to hear from him.
No one's done anything?
What is there to do that won't bring out the press?
Look, I'm not worried about the press. I'm worried about your son, Mr. Parsons. Whatever happened to him has had a 10-day start, and nothing's been done about it. Now, how about the books?
What about them?
Have you had an audit?
Now, look here, you
Keep
young...
your voice down, will you? I ask you a simple question. Have you found anything missing?
I haven't looked. Where are you going?
Well, if what you say is true, no one's seen or heard of David Parsons for 10 days, then I'm going to get some help.
What help?
Police.
I don't want any police in on this. How much does your responsibility come to?
$100,000.
I'll post it in cash.
You'll what?
I'll post that amount of money and assume your liability, if there is a liability. You'll never get a fairer offer than that. I don't want this matter to get into the papers. Well?
Look, Mr. Parsons, we have assumed liability, and we can't transfer it at this date. It's out of the question. So let's start our planning from there. I met Mrs. Parsons downstairs. I understand she's not supposed to meet me or see me. Now, is that right?
Yeah.
Well, you better fix up that part of it.
That's so?
Yeah.
Suppose I don't.
I'll see her anyhow.
Get out of here!
He was looking for something to throw when I stepped out the door and walked down the hall to the stairway. At the foot of the stairs, I looked around for Robert Eckert, who wasn't around. I found my hat by the door, and then I ran into Mrs. Parsons again.
Mr. Dollar.
Yes?
What's been decided? What's he going to do about David?
Well, it's pretty hard to say what he's going to do about anything.
What are you going to do?
I was going to drive over to your house this afternoon and ask you to go to the police and make out a missing persons report. If you refused to do that, I was going to the police myself and ask their help.
Oh. Do you think that's the thing to do? I mean, a missing person report?
Yep, I think that's the thing to do.
I'll be home later this afternoon. He might hear us.
All right. Say 2 o'clock?
Fine.
You cool off?
Oh, for a second or two. Some museum piece he is.
Be careful of him, Mr. Dollar. He'll break your heart. He's your kind. You're his dish of meat.
Yeah. I didn't pay much attention to that remark from Robert Ecker. I thought about Svengali and Rasputin and a couple of fellas like that. I didn't think of Parsons Sr. in the same class with them. But I should have guessed it. Ecker's trying to tell me, but I just wouldn't listen.
Now, here's our star to tell you about tomorrow's intriguing episode of this week's story.
Tomorrow, some more facts about how the Earth swallowed a man. Join us, won't you? Yours truly, Johnny Dollar.
Yours truly, Johnny Dollar, starring Bob Bailey, is transcribed in Hollywood. Written by John Dawson, it is produced and directed by Jack Johnstone. Be sure to join us tomorrow night, same time and station, for the next exciting episode of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar. Roy Rowan speaking.
I had somebody inquire, why don't we carry any of the earlier programs, the 1950 to 1954 episodes of Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar? I answered that question by comparing a couple of the shows. The Shepherd Matter we recently heard here on Classic Radio Theater. I had found the half-hour episode that was done earlier. And quite frankly, these shows develop so much better over a 30-minute time, over a 15-minute shows, 75 minutes as opposed to 30 minutes. And many of those 30-minute shows were only 25 minutes, so not a lot of great development. Jack Johnstone did a great job of helping develop those. From April 30th, 1956, Yours Truly, Johnny Dollar, here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. Thanks for making us a part of your day. Would you thank this station, support their advertisers? Their kindness and courtesy allow us to be with you each and every time we roll around. Now, if you miss a day, you don't have to miss a single show. I produce 21 hours of classic radio theater each and every week. They're all available at classicradio.stream for immediate streaming. You can also find podcast links to all of our shows there, where you can download the shows and listen as your leisure. You can also contact me, find our social media links. You can buy me a coffee. The Buy Me a Coffee money goes toward acquiring additional classic radio collections and helps us maintain our distribution channels. That's at classicradio.stream. Thanks for tuning in. Tell all your friends the great radio shows are right here at this spot on the dial. Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox on your favorite station.